Also topping news tonight, a case that we've been following for nearly 3 years. Now, finally, a sense of closure in the murder of University of Iowa student Molly Tibbetts.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Cristhian Bahena Rivera, guilty of the crime of murder in the first degree.
After more than 7 hours of deliberation, the jury in the Cristhian Bahena Rivera murder trial have reached a verdict, guilty on all counts in the July 2018 murder of University of Iowa student Molly Tibbetts. The 12-member jury found Rivera guilty of murder in the first degree. They also had the option to convict Bahena Rivera of second-degree murder and manslaughter. The jury is made up of 7 men and 5 women. 9 of the jurors are white and 3 are Hispanic, Latino, or Spanish. The prosecution argued Bahena Rivera pursued Molly Tibbetts, stabbed her, and hid her body in a cornfield outside her hometown of Brooklyn, Iowa. Bahena Rivera led police to her body in the cornfield several weeks later and allegedly confessed to the crime. The prosecution says the family is pleased with the verdict.
We just spoke to the family for a few minutes afterwards. They're relieved. They're pleased with the verdict. It's just the family of Molly Tibbetts is just a great bunch, and they've been awesome to work with in this circumstance. Of course, it's always very tragic, and whenever something like this happens.
Bahena Rivera's defense says they respect the jury's decision. They also acknowledge the difficulty in arguing the case with so much evidence stacked against their client, but they say Rivera remained consistent in his version of the events.
I mean, we had a situation where a client gave a statement, and he had her DNA in the trunk, and he led him to the body. That's all pretty incriminating evidence. And from the very first day we met Mr. Bahena, the story he put forth on the stand was exactly the version of the events he told us going back to August 2018. He had never varied from that version of the events, not one detail.
During Bahena Rivera's testimony, he claimed 2 masked men were responsible for the crime, and he was an unwilling participant. The defense says that was always their client's story, and investigators cut corners to close the case. The next step is sentencing. Bahena Rivera is scheduled to be sentenced on July 15th in Montezuma, Iowa. That's near Brooklyn, Iowa, where Molly Tibbetts was killed. Bahena Rivera, who has now been convicted of first-degree murder, could now spend the rest of his life in prison without the possibility of parole. At one point, the Bahena Rivera trial was scheduled to take place in Woodbury County, originally set for trial in Poweshiek County. Defense attorneys argued they couldn't get a fair and partial jury in the county. So on March 27, 2019, the trial was moved to Sioux City. But in July 2020, court documents claimed both sides would face hurdles with COVID-19 restrictions, and moving the trial would be beneficial. Eventually, the trial was moved to Scott County.